to Steve James, he had to give away his approach and experience and knowledge on what Christmas is really about. It's a very dark affair, believe me. Okay, so without further ado, I'd just like to say a very warm truth seeker welcome to Steve, and take it away.
Silent clap.
Thanks, Dave.
Silent clap.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks, fellow truth seekers. Okay, be warned, this is quite long. It's quite a lot of information. Feel free to get 40 winks at some stage, sitting on a comfortable chair.
Stop me, everybody.
I'll take this comes in two parts. I'm going to take obviously we're going to have a bit of a break, kind of at the halfway mark, and then back into it. But it's heavy going stuff. But please bear with me, and I'd like to introduce you to the magic of Christmas. But take heed and beware, for it is a dark tale. We in the West regard Christmas as the most celebrated period of the year. It has been accepted in modern society as a Christian holiday, and it is without doubt the biggest event to support the corporate world of consumerism. It's strange how we associate Christmas with the birth of Christ, when the very word Christmas means the death of Christ, or more accurately, the dismissal of the Anointed One. And to be anointed means to apply oil, which was, amongst other things, a magical healing ritual. Our modern Christmas is a conglomerate of ancient traditions, religions and practices. Most people already have some idea that it is a fairly bogus celebration, but we excuse it, however, on behalf of the children, as it all seems innocent enough. But I ask, do we realise the historical deceptions and occult significance that underline its dark origins? And magic, no, it's not a typo. Aleister Crowley, the English occultist, a Satanist, a poet, a painter, a novelist and accomplished mountaineer. He founded the religion known as Thelema and influenced other religious founders such as Wicca's Gerald Gardner and Scientology's L. Ron Hubbard. He was known as the Beast 666, and that number will crop up sporadically throughout this presentation. Crowley started using the word magic to differentiate what he was doing from stage magic. He considered magic to be anything that moves a person close to fulfilling their ultimate destiny, and declared also that Thelema followers should do what thou wilt. So by means of an introduction, we all celebrated, but what do we really know about Christmas? To better understand the magic of Christmas, we will explore history, religion, philosophy, etymology, mythology, customs and traditions. Ultimately, however, it is a venture into the mysterious world of the occult. And by definition, the word occult means hidden or secret knowledge relating to mystical and supernatural forces, magical powers, practices or phenomena. Occult knowledge is not commonly understood. It is often described as being evil. However, it is neither good nor evil, as the outcome depends largely upon the will of the practitioner. Good or evil is your choice, so I urge you to choose wisely. I have introduced a variety of occult themes into this presentation to hopefully promote further inquiry from the audience in line with the aim. And the aim of this presentation is to provoke an interest into the understanding of our established worldview. Because what do we really know about the nature of reality? So I ask of you, let's look beyond the veil, because we only ever see the tip of an iceberg, so question everything. But to start us off, did you know that Christmas was illegal in the United States until the year 1836, as it was considered to be an ancient pagan holiday? And the word pagan means country dweller or rustic, and it was considered to be a religion of the peasantry. A derogatory term. Paganism was a focus on spirituality and nature rather than on religious doctrines and dogma. Pagans are deeply aware of the natural world and see the power of the divine in the ongoing cycle of life and death. The notion of paganism was created by the early Christian church around about the 4th century, and it was originally meant to be a derogatory term. The Holy Roman Empire tried to banish pagan festivals during the Reformations under the Council of Nicaea and Emperor Constantine. The origins of Christianity incorporate state-sponsored deception which used religion as a means of control for its empire. And that deception still exists in the world today. But remember this, the word religion literally translates as to bind, to hold back and to thwart from progress. So make of that what you will. But on the theme of religion, there's something very fishy about Western religion. The object of Satan is to counterfeit God and to defeat salvation by deceitful means. He wants to take the ignorant to hell. Knowledge of the occult can help to decode the language of this deception. One such method is through the church, by hiding pagan gods within Christian images to fool the unwary into idol worship, as an example. The Vatican and many other Christian churches are filled with satanic symbols, including their spires, which are obelisks honouring the severed phallus of Nimrod. Religious figureheads such as the Pope wear, carry or use items which have a dark occult significance. His mitre represents Dagon, the fish god of Nimrod. His sceptre carries the sun god symbol. He carries a bent cross to mock Christ and use the use of the upside down cross, the most satanic of all symbols. He even has Baphomet sewn into his papal robes and did an Easter Mass praising Lucifer. Statues of the Madonna and Child are actually representative of Semiramis and Tammuz, and statues of Saint Peter are subversively dedicated to Nimrod. And we'll be talking about Nimrod quite significantly during this presentation. And I'm not here to mock any religion in particular, because to be fair, a lot of religions will be getting a little bit of a hammering. So for any viewers with religious sentiments, take no offence, please. Okay, so this image on the screen is the grand but sinister sculpture of Jesus with his head torn apart. It is called the Resurrection, and it is intended to depict Jesus rising from a nuclear crater in the Garden of Gethsemane. I think it's about 88 tons of bronze and brass, and it's in the Vatican. It sits above the Pope, but have a little look closer and it seems to resemble the throne of Satan. The sculpture happens to be 66 feet wide, representing the number of the beast. It is situated in the Vatican's Paul VI audience hall, which, as you can see, resembles the head of a snake. And here's an internal view. Look familiar?
Yeah.
What would you say that looks like? Snake. The inside of a snake, and that's where the Pope sits. And there's a closer look at Jesus himself. What would you say that looks to be emanating from his head? You look closer. It's definitely got a bit of a reptilian look to it.
Yeah. Oh God.
Recognise the hand symbols? The Hail Satan. Okay, so there's some pictures of the Pope. And there's the Pope sporting boy lover paedophile code symbols during the World Youth Day ceremony. And did you know that the Vatican actually owns a telescope named Lucifer? Very interesting. Okay, so to help us explore the origins of Christmas, let us first orientate ourselves to the ancient world. Ancient Egypt is considered to be the very centre of the earth and is the birthplace of occult wisdom. The Egyptian word alkem or alkemet referred to the colour black. Hence Egypt was known as the Black Land or the land of black magic. The word alchemy derives from alkemet, and in alchemy the colour black is highly significant. It has some negative connotations. Next up, Babylon. Babylon is the biblical city in ancient Mesopotamia, whose ruins lie in modern-day Iraq. Babylon means the gate of God. Some even call it the Stargate. The deity, known as Nimrod, was the king of Babylon. And the last area of interest is Bethlehem. And each of the 12 divisions of the zodiac sits in a house, or a lehim, which is the Hebrew word for bread. Bethlehem is literally the house of bread. And in this zodiacal house you will find a virgin, which refers to the constellation of Virgo. The virgin birth meaning the prominence of Virgo during the winter solstice. And much of Christianity relates to astrological significance, such as the 12 disciples and the 12 signs of the zodiac, for example. So we have referred to Egypt as the land of black magic, which is well known for ancient megalithic structures and monuments such as the pyramids and the Sphinx. So if you look closely, the face of the Sphinx bears similarity to both Tutankhamun and the character in Star Wars known as Darth Vader. They are based upon the head of a snake as it denotes serpent wisdom. And serpent wisdom emanates from the pineal gland of the spiritually enlightened man. The sixth chakra of the human energy system is the pineal gland or the third eye, as you well know. When the third eye opens, you develop your sixth sense of intuition and spirituality, the gateway to your guardian angels. If the ancient Egyptians were spiritually enlightened, were they using their serpent wisdom as a force for good or a force for evil? As it is conjectured that the Sphinx was originally based on Anubis, the god of the underworld. The Sphinx, incidentally, was 66 feet tall. Right, let's meet the cast. And many mythological characters have been incorporated into the modern Christmas tradition. So before we move on, let's familiarise ourselves with just a few of them. And we're going to say hello to Santa Claus and his syncretic cast of mythological archetypes. And in this section we will look at Jesus, Krampus, Saint Nicholas, Nimrod and good old Santa Claus himself. In philosophical terms, Santa Claus is the idolised demigod of Western capitalistic materialism. But to the average, deliberately deluded child, the Santa Claus mythos is real and he is way cooler and culturally more significant than both God and Jesus. So Satan's getting his will there. So first up, Jesus, the Son of God, the leading man in Christian tradition. The one and only King of the Jews, Jesus Christ. Jesus is one of the most important figures in religious history, yet many reject the idea that even existed at all, because dig deep and it appears that Christianity was not founded on the shared memories of a real man, but rather upon a common mytheme. Christ or Christos in Greek means oil or anointed with oil. and some claim it is the healing oil of Abramelin. But every month, or 12 times a year, the meaning behind Jesus and his 12 apostles, you could say, we secrete an oily substance from the cerebrum, which is a region in the brain. This secretion travels down the spinal column. It is the holy oil, the Christ that resides within us all. This holy oil was the aspiration of the ancient magician, as it purifies the performance of the alchemical great work. And the alchemical great work is the metaphorical transformation from lead to gold. Jesus Christ represents ancient esoteric wisdom. Our bodies are alchemical instruments. Your brain is the temple and your body is the holy land. So best look after it. Christ and his Islamic equivalent, Allah, derived from the term Kristalla, or crystal, which is based upon the 7 core audible tones of creation, Karaya Sata Hala, Kristalla, whose merged frequencies allegedly form pure, bright diamond light. However, if Jesus Christ was a real person, you do have to admire him. The biblical Jesus was a troublemaker nonconformist who valued people over oppressive institutions. He took on those who alleged to be his superiors and called them out on their false claims to moral superiority and their tacit assumption of power in society. I'm guessing if Jesus Christ was around today, he'd be pretty much like us guys. He would be an anti-vaxxer and he'd be wearing a tinfoil hat.
I'm a vaccine skeptic.
Oh well, middle of the road then.
I like to do research.
Okay, so it's not rocket science, however it is a little bit of brain surgery going into this, so here we go. We have touched upon the hidden origins of the word Christ. But let us explore further how Jesus, Mary and Joseph can be equated to regions of the brain. The word secret comes from secretion, because this secretion is an esoteric secret. The sacrum is the sacred part of this secret, as the secretion descends down the spinal cord and reaches the sacrum, which is the lower region of the spine. Jesus was crucified at the age of 33. I think I've went too far there. It means, he was crucified at the age of 33 at Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. The human spine has 33 vertebrae, and it represents Jacob's ladder, the stairway to heaven. In the place of the skull is the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. The pituitary contains a whitish secretion like milk and represents Mary, the divine feminine. The pineal gland secretes a golden fluid, a bit like honey, and it represents Joseph, the divine masculine. Together they form the land of milk and honey. The skull also has a region in it called the pia mater, and this is the area which contains the oily fluid. It means tender mother or Mother Mary. The fluid found in these glands comes from the same source, the claustrum, which means barrier. And this is the story of Santa Claus, or Santa Claustrum, who comes down the chimney being the spine, bearing gifts. The sacred fluid is what's known as the holy gift, as Mary and Joseph produce the oil, or the Christos, that runs all the way down the 33 vertebrae of the spine to the sacrum. In the solar plexus there is a small depression, or a manger, where Christ is born of this immaculate conception. The sacred oil of Christ is crucified on the cross between two thieves, being the Ida and the Pingala nerves. and await its resurrection in the tomb of the hypothalamus. The oil literally lights up the optic thalamus gland, known as the light of the world. It reaches the pineal gland, where millions of dormant brain cells are activated, and unlocks the secret of the Ark of the Covenant. That's a metaphorical translation of the story of Christ. But we're talking about Christmas here, and did you know that Jesus and Santa Claus have some common ground? For example, Jesus says ho ho in Zechariah 2:6. Santa says ho ho ho. Jesus comes from the north where he lives. Santa comes from the North Pole where he lives. Jesus is a carpenter. Santa is a toy carpenter. Jesus, omnipotent and all-powerful, Revelations 19. But Santa can deliver toys across the world in one night, so beat that. Jesus has a beard and Santa has a beard. But Jesus is the absolute truth and Santa is an absolute fable. So, we'll move on to Krampus. And Krampus, the Christmas demon, is the representation of bad Santa. In Central European folklore, Krampus is a horned anthropomorphic figure described as half goat, half demon, who during the Christmas season punishes all the children who have misbehaved. December the 5th is Krampusnacht, when according to legend, Krampus will spend the night visiting each house. He might leave bundles of sticks for the bad children, or he might just hit them with the sticks instead. He might toss them into a sack on his back and then throw them into a stream, or just take them straight down the road to hell.
Rightly so.
So you better be good. So the next day, December the 6th, is Nikolaustag, or St. Nicholas's Day, who rewards the well-behaved children with gifts. That is, all the ones who haven't already been beaten or drowned first by Krampus. In the true spirit of Christmas, Krampus and St. Nicholas are close companions. There they are. Nicholas distributed money to the poor and contributed to our Christmas origins by joining the festival of Saturnalia to the Catholic Mass. The cult of Nicholas worship moved north into Europe and blended with the Norse god Woden, who is the father of Thor. Woden had a long white beard, he wore a heavy winter robe, and he rode a horse across the sky. And that's him there in the picture. Nicholas, whose Dutch name Sinterklaas evolved into the modern word we have, Santa Claus. St. Nicholas was born in Turkey, perhaps the reason why turkey is a traditional Christmas dinner. And interestingly, the Nicolaitans are enemies of Jesus Christ in the book of Revelation. And we all know that Old Nick is just another name for the devil. Little Nicky. So we mentioned Nimrod a couple of times, and next up we have the god king of Babylon, Nimrod, the founder of Mesopotamian civilization. He is a descendant of Noah. Believe it or not, Nimrod's birthday is December the 25th. He is comparable to many other deities such as Moloch, Baal, Apollo, Mithra, Zeus and Odin. They literally all refer to the same being, Satan, the opponent of God. Tree worship and the origins of the Christmas tree tradition come directly from the legends of Nimrod. After his death, Nimrod's son, named Tammuz, would place a gift on the tree at the winter solstice as an offering to his father. Note the similarities between Nimrod and Santa Claus, such as the tree, the beard and the reindeer. The colours we associate with Christmas relate to Nimrod, Semiramis and Tammuz. For instance, blood, fire, the colour red is Nimrod. Semiramis is related to the colour white and the moon. And Tammuz, trees and the colour green.
Steve, can I just say, it's
Yeah.
Semiramis.
Yeah.
She's in your subconscious all the time, every day. You don't see her.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the boat race, ISIS, on the
Yeah.
one side of the river. You've got the swimming pool all along the side, it's got ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. Look at the tiles.
Is that right?
IS, 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 ISIS.
That's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. That's something I've never heard
Look at the
before.
swimming pool, the tiles, it's IS, IS all the way around.
Dear me.
So it's there, it's plain sight, you kind of see it.
That's terrific. That's an interesting piece. Okay, so Nimrod, who we've just discussed, is considered to be the first Freemasonic leader. After all, he did construct the Tower of Babel. It doesn't get any better than that. Some initiates of Freemasonry are required to undertake what's known as the Oath of Nimrod. And we can see here on the slide that the EU Parliament building was based upon the Tower of Babel. This painting by Bruegel and is officially known as the Crystal Palace. And this photo shows an interesting pyramid shape complete with an all-seeing eye. The EU Parliament building. I'm sure that was all just, you know, just chance.
Coincidence.
Yeah, complete coincidence. The other picture there, anyone recognise that?
Is that what's left of the Twin Tower?
Yeah. Interesting photo. Kind of looks like the Tower of Babel. Not saying there's there's anything in that, but just curious. So, you might not know this, but the EU produced a New World Order style booklet produced by a company known as the Lucius Trust, which was formerly known as the Lucifer Trust. I'm sure Alice Bailey, I'm sure Alice Bailey had something to do with that in its early days. And an interesting point is that out of a total of 679 seats in the Parliament building, the one numbered 666 is for some reason always unoccupied. Don't know if they're awaiting a special guest perhaps. But we'll move on, and it's now time for the star of the show, Santa Claus. He's the real thing. Despite popular opinion, Santa was not the creation of the Coca-Cola company, but they did start using Santa in advertising back in 1933, and they helped undoubtedly to popularise his image.
That's because they took cocaine out of Coke.
Ah, that's correct, yeah, and I'm going on to that. The soft drink was invented in 1885, and the original recipe actually contained cocaine. Just like you said. Another ingredient was the cola nut, which contained caffeine, which is again another stimulant. So the kids must have been bouncing in those days.
Work hard.
Yeah. But did you know the Egyptian frog deity known as Kuk? He was the god of darkness during the chaos when creation began, allegedly. Kuk represents the male aspect and is the origin of the slang term, hold your ears ladies, cock. The Egyptian frog deity is considered by some to be the real thing and the real hidden meaning to the naming of the drink, Coca-Cola. Egypt gets everywhere, doesn't it? So, back to Santa Claus, and the history of modern Santa stretches back to 1822, when Dr. Clement Moore wrote a poem based on Knickerbocker history, a reference to the Dutch migrants in New York and their Sinterklaas celebrations. His poem was aptly called The Night Before Christmas. Santa was given a facelift in the 1860s by a cartoonist by the name of Thomas Nast, who worked for the US magazine Harper's Weekly. and he based his seasonal drones on Dr. Moore's poem to give us our modern Santa Claus image. This image was also based upon Bacchus, the Roman god of revelry. And on Santa Claus, so Santa Claus is the major deity in a religion known as Western consumerism. The Beatles singer John Lennon once said that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus. However, that honour probably belongs to Santa Claus, with around 85% of Western children actually believing that he really exists. Is it a clever play on words, however, or is it a coincidence that Santa is an anagram for Satan, and that an anagram of Klaus is Lucas? And we all know the modern equivalent of Lucius or Lucifer is Lucas, the fallen angel. The likeness, however, doesn't stop there. They both live in a remote place, wear red costume, they punish bad people, visit children at night, they descend into a fiery pit, have supernatural powers, know what you are thinking, can be bribed to secure favours, they are assisted by mythical creatures, and they are well practiced in the art of deception. That's Santa Claus, ladies and gentlemen. And Santa Claus has no Christian associations whatsoever. He is derived entirely from a variety of other gods associated with the underworld. His portrayal of a big fat belly stems from eating his fill of sacrificial children throughout the period of the year. The underworld is astronomically associated to the planet Saturn. Saturn, Satan, Santa, it could all be said that this falls within the satanic principles of mockery, humour and inversion. So we've mentioned Saturn, and Saturn will be getting a mention in part 2 of this presentation.
And yet it's a beautiful planet when you see it through the telescope.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but the universe is beautiful, isn't it? It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's that's our job to discern between, you know, all these beautiful things. What's God's plan for us, I suppose.
Yeah.
The way I see it, the universe is magnificent and the evil is the dust.
Yeah.
Because of everything, it's
lovely.
dust.
In an interesting context. So the phrase ho 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 originated from the late 1600s when public plays were popular. Before the devil came out on stage, he would announce himself by saying the words ho ho ho. Anton LaVey, pictured here, he may have wrote the Satanic Bible, but religious scriptures tell us that Satan diverts our obedience from God by using deceitful methods, such as the very methods employed during the season of goodwill. Can you all read that, by the way? I don't know what it's like at the back. So this is an interesting point. Santa says, and he'll be popping up from time to time in this presentation, declared at 1900 hours or 7 PM on the night of Halloween, the second COVID-19 lockdown was to start on Guy Fawkes night, that then come to an end on Krampusnacht. Why? In order to fit with the occult themes and satanic mockery that are dictating politics. So we're going to move on. Next topic is the cult of the mushroom. And it is argued that Christianity is an expression of the ancient cult which performed sex magic rituals and ate magic mushrooms. To many, this idea is too much to contemplate, but there is an impressive amount of evidence to back this claim up. And these are the topics we're going to be looking at: hallucinogens, the Holy Grail, shamans and mushroom heads. So the cult of the mushroom. So could it be possible that the entire story of Jesus in the Gospels was a reference to the ancient journey of conscious self-exploration, the hallucinogenic trip. The Eucharist, where bread wafers transformed into the body of Christ, is a reenactment of the sacred ceremony of ingesting the flesh of the magic mushroom. Knowledge of the higher worlds is by the state of mind and the raised consciousness induced by deep states of meditation, high forms of ritual, or the ingestion of psychoactive substances. Do not eat, by the way. Just a little bit of a disclaimer. Or eat it if you like, but don't blame me. Don't say I told you to do it. Oops, missed a little bit there, sorry. Wait for it. So the red and white Amanita muscaria or fly agaric is often depicted in Christian art, and we can see on this picture here the baby Jesus is a reference to the magic mushroom. But we've got some more Christian art coming up. And this depicts the Holy Grail. But is the Holy Grail actually the mature Amanita muscaria mushroom with its edges curled up? Has anyone seen one of these in the woods, by the way?
Loads.
Yeah.
Centre Parks is
it really?
Autumn's absolutely covered.
Yeah. I mean, you can't miss these. If you saw one of these, they're immediately identifiable. Fantastic.
They're fantastic, and the key Centre Parks, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why families keep going back.
Maybe. If a duck walks past, it falls over.
Is that right?
If it slightly touches the mushroom, it just
falls. Oh, the mushroom does?
The mushroom, not the duck. The mushroom just falls over, right. So they're very delicate.
Dear me.
I've had some, but that's another story.
You and I shall talk at the end of this.
We have a friend as well, haven't we? It's the top of the mushrooms, magic mushrooms. Sorry.
That's no bother. So were magic mushrooms we've mentioned about the Holy Grail, that one there with the edges curled up. But were magic mushrooms the source of mystical power and insight for the ruling priest class? The Holy Grail is the highest secret in Kabbalah, in which incantations of ancient Hebrew words can transform physical matter into existence. Perhaps the mushroom represents the forbidden fruit of knowledge, as in the Adam and Eve story. And this painting of Adam and Eve depicts trees and a serpent, with the fly agaric mushroom in the background. And you can note that Adam and Eve are actually holding a button stage fly agaric mushroom in their hands. Looks like Eve's just about to pop one in her mouth. Good girl. Does the serpent represent serpent wisdom, or the guardian of the threshold at the gateway to the astral plane? Get yourself high and see for yourself.
See, I've told you before, that's why the cows secret in India, because you get them rolling cows.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's interesting.
So everybody has a cow.
Aye, it's a good one. Getting high is represented with the halo of enlightenment, and we can see that here. You can see how it closely resembles the underneath or the gills of the mushroom. What's that, sorry?
It looks like baby.
Alright. We can see also how Christmas tree decorations drew inspiration from these hallucinogenic mushrooms, red and white. And it continues, because it's hard to deny that the red and white Santa Claus is just a modern representation of the village shaman, who had knowledge of pharmacopoeia. The legends of flying reindeer relates to Siberian shamanism, where the deer are also fond of the mushroom, and they too get to fly as high as kites across the sky pulling a sledge. You can see here the Pope pictured here wearing red and white garments similar to Santa Claus. And I also hear that he's partial to a little bit of dabbling into something unholy. For example, you ever wondered why the Pope wears red shoes, for instance?
Oh, yes.
And it's nothing to do with Christmas, but it's got lots to do with children.
Yeah.
And not for the faint-hearted. I'm sure you've all looked into this yourselves. But if you want to know more, I would certainly suggest an internet search for Tony Podesta's artwork and Pizzagate. Aha, the red shoes, the Wizard of Oz. Another conversation, I think, that one. The cult of the mushroom was the inspiration behind many types of headdress, as you can probably see here. Worn throughout history, including the serviceman's beret and the bearskin. In Norse mythology, berserkers, which translates to the word bearskin, were fearless warriors filled with rage due to their consumption of the fly agaric mushroom. And you can see certainly the shape of the hat, or the dome shape of the hat, and the red and white costume. You might recognise this character. Ex-SAS and TV survival expert Bear Grylls is also partial to wild mushrooms. And we can see how his beret resembles the shape of the mushroom. So that's the cult of the mushroom. They are mushroom heads. Santa says, can you all read that?
Yeah.
He's got far more controversial things to say later on.
Can I see it at the back here?
Alright, it says, Santa's saying the greatest ignorance is to reject something you know nothing about. That's a quote by H. Jackson Brown. So the next topic is the cult of the sun. And you might have all heard this, or certainly heard of things like Sol Invictus. And the cult of the sun is where the renewal of light and the coming of the new year was celebrated throughout the Roman Empire at the period known as Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus means the birth of the inconquerable sun. And there's a picture of the Nazi black sun, which we'll be touching upon.
So on the 22nd, is it?
I think it's the 17th to the 23rd. It comes up on my slide, so I'll be able to tell you for sure. Roman pagans used to gather at the hill where the Vatican is presently located to commemorate Sol Invictus. So remember that the notion of Christmas emerged around the year 313 when the Roman Catholic Church moved the winter solstice celebration on December the 21st, which is the winter solstice, to the 25th, combining a pagan practice with the newly developed Christianity. So the 21st to the 25th. Prior to the legalization, I'll just advance my slide, sorry about that. Prior to the legalization of Christianity by Emperor Constantine, no record of Christmas celebration is anywhere to be found. Sol Invictus is closely linked to the legends of Mithra, who wore one of these, a Santa-style hat. The Statue of Liberty is also based upon the Sol Invictus legend, and it was gifted to the New World, i.e. America, by French Freemasons. The highly esoteric Statue of Liberty sits on top of an 11-pointed Masonic star, and the number 11 references Abaddon. And Abaddon, as you might know, is the other name for Satan. So another little interesting twist to Sol Invictus is the I Am Invictus, the Invictus Games. I Am Invictus is a cleverly concealed means of adoration to the Antichrist. When God revealed his name to Moses, he revealed himself as Yahweh, which is translated to I am that I am. Invictus, the light, it's a reference to Lucifer, the angel of light. I am Lucifer is perhaps one occult interpretation of the Invictus Games logo. A mockery to the disabled service personnel injured serving their satanically minded masters. So it doesn't stop there though, which is why I find this a little bit interesting. Is
Hewitt's son, isn't it?
God only knows. The term I am, as in pop star Will I Am, who has links to transhumanism, or certainly the term does. He is, or Will I Am is, a futurist with his own tech company and clothing line, believe it or not, which are kind of influencing the Illuminati's transhumanist agenda.
Gotta be better than his music.
Yeah, I like him. I've always liked him.
Yeah, I like his music. He seems a pleasant bloke. His tech company's worth checking out. So is his clothing line. There's a picture allegedly from his clothing line there. I know that's hard to see at the back, but that's Moloch the owl. I forget what the slogan is underneath it, but that's clearly a Masonic design. You think, well, where does that come from? And like I say, some of his tech products are kind of AI or artificial intelligence orientated.
He seems to be quite aware, doesn't he, when things he comes out with.
Yeah.
I feel as if he's quite aware of things.
I think a lot of these pop stars and celebrities are actually well versed in some of the esoteric stuff.
What I said previously, Will I Am's a conceptual musician. He comes up with a lot of different concepts, fashions, and these are the people that they kind of latch onto. Madonna's another example. Lady Gaga's another example.
It's not Madonna, we're not talking.
They don't just sing songs. They conceptualise fashions and things.
He has children's homes as well.
He gets on
Really? That's interesting.
For homeless children.
Right.
He has quite few in America. Homes for children.
I wonder how many of them actually get to stay there.
I don't know anything about it other than I know that I've read the
I didn't know that, that's interesting.
He educates them and
I hope it's not an ostensible children's home with the premise of looking after poor children, but by the way you're going to get eaten by the Illuminati at some stage.
The Jimmy Savile Memorial Children's Home.
Yeah, there's definitely a theme going on, isn't there? That doesn't mean he's a bad guy, just the fact that he's got another celebrity photo showing the Illuminati one eye slogan, I suppose. Alright, the next up, you may be familiar with the film I Am Legend. It's a post-apocalyptic predictive programming action film set in New York after a virus, like the coronavirus, which was created to cure cancer, but sadly it wiped out most of the human race and turned the remainder into zombies, appropriately called. Then the zombies were called Dark Seekers. So sounds like a bit of
Just you mentioned masks there. Masks I read today, they don't do any good whatsoever, but they highlight who won't wear them. So you by not wearing them, they know the trouble.
Oh yeah, points out all the people who the stars you're going to target, doesn't it? Yeah, that's why I always wear mine in shops. You know, face it, it's just easier. Like, whatever. Never. So that's I Am Legend, and again you can see I Am Legend in Invictus Games has a certain sort of look to it as well. Even the way the images are similar is quite interesting. Beyonce, I'm not going into depth with Beyonce because we all know she's an obvious Illuminati mind control slave. You may be familiar with her alter ego. They've all got alters. Hers is known as Sasha Fierce, and this album is known as I Am Sasha Fierce. The I Am album, which craftily displays the Hermetic law of polarity. And there's an awful lot of that, and you could go forever. I'm sure Mark Devlin's all over this with the
husband's a billionaire as well.
Yeah.
He's always doing the
the
thing on his album.
Yeah. I don't know how people, saying that, a lot of people have picked up on all this, haven't they? It's absolutely in your face. Outrageous. So, I Am is a crafty means of demonstrating transhumanism. Right, we've been talking about Sol Invictus, which derives from the cult of the sun, all ancient cults, and these can be explored further with knowledge of astrotheology, which is a study of religious systems based on the observations of the heavens. Astrotheology will teach us that December the 25th is only symbolic as to the birth of Christ, and as a further example we will now see the many comparisons between the Egyptian sun god Horus and Jesus. Horus, Jesus. These characters feature significantly in comparative mythology, and even their names sound alike. Horus was born the 25th of December, born a virgin birth, accompanied by a star in the east, adored by three kings. He performed miracles, he had 12 followers, he was crucified and buried for 3 days and resurrected. And believe it or not, there are 180 comparisons between him and Jesus. We can see further comparisons in etymological terms. Jesus is comparable to Zeus or Horus, which equates to our modern word hours, as in how many hours has this guy been talking nonsense for? The unit of time. Horus, the sun, has become our modern word horizon. Horus. Yeah.
Could you just move
Sure.
snowman?
Yeah, sorry mate. So Horus and the sun has become our modern word horizon, and set as in sunset, and Ra, the god Ra or Re, is now sun ray. That's the etymology behind some of that. Horus was the Egyptian god of the sky. He was born the son of Isis and Osiris. After fighting with his uncle named Set, he lost his eye during the fight. He did become the king of Egypt. However, the eye of Horus became one of the most important symbols in ancient Egypt. He was in the form of a falcon whose right eye was the sun, which represented power and quintessence. His left eye became the moon, representing protection and health. Occult knowledge states that the circle of life comprises 4 key components, and you will be familiar with air, fire, water and earth. Quintessence, the ultimate substance, binds and permeates all of these 4 elements together. Quintessence is the 5th element of life. Hi, by the way, I didn't see you come in. In the film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Mitty, played by Ben Stiller, works for Life magazine, and he is searching for the photo known as the quintessence of life. Henry Luce was a media magnate. That's not him, by the way. He was a media magnate who worked for Life magazine. He was also a member of the Yale University secret society known as Skull and Bones. The Brotherhood of Death was its other name. His membership name, believe it or not, was Bale, and we'll be talking about Bale later on in this presentation. This guy here, President Bush, he was yet another prominent member. And if you haven't looked into Skull and Bones, get yourself on the internet, check that out.
Bill Gates was a member.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
His dad certainly was.
Aye. That's interesting. So the Eye of Horus, and we've mentioned that, the ancient Egyptians had symbology and metaphors associated with their mythology, such as the Eye of Horus and the falcon imagery. The falcon is the inner bird aspect of the brain, and the Eye of Horus represents the pineal gland. The ancient Egyptians were very aware of physiology and anatomy. They knew that this precious holy oil of Christ that we talked about earlier could ascend to the optic thalamus and activate the dormant brain cells like we talked about earlier. Physical and spiritual regeneration can result from this, and one is able to experience the higher mind of intuition and clairvoyance. Many believe this was the seat of the divine consciousness. Horus was considered as the universal Christ. There are some behaviours, practices and lifestyle choices detrimental to this oil, such as overeating, alcohol and immoral behaviour. So, no drinking, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to show all the clubs and the pubs, just so you can increase the oil of Christos. Esoterically, this is known as eating from the forbidden tree of life. Immoral behaviour. Astrotheology, which we were talking about, becomes easier to understand when we consider that the many historians from the supposed time of Christ, not one of them have documented any stories relating to the biblical Jesus that correspond to the Christian documents drafted by Emperor Constantine in the year 325 during the Council of Nicaea. Comparisons, however, can be made between Jesus and the many deities throughout the world, and there's quite a big list. So it's alright, I'll not be asking questions, but
So if it's called Jesus, how's that? Because Hebrew wasn't got a G.
you're right, it's probably Jesus or Horus, Jesus.
Yeshua.
Yeshua, yeah.
Yeshua is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I mean it's beyond the scope of this presentation, but there is other things to kind of qualify a historic Jesus as well, but I've omitted that from this presentation. The origins of Christmas can be found amongst the 4 seasons and the pagan holy days that coincide with the cycles of the dying sun. The winter solstice, something I need to work on there. The winter solstice at Christmas is associated with death followed by rebirth, and as you know, Christmas is about the birth of God's Son. God's Son is our Saviour. Without the Son there would be no life on earth. Sun worship was practiced by early cultures all over the world, especially during the winter solstice when the sun disappears over the horizon for 3 days. Jesus, as you know, was dead for 3 days, and December the 25th is the day when the sun makes his triumphant return. Pagans held a ritual to honour the birth of a king, and his ritual is comparative to the Christian Christmas story. And as you know, Jesus is pictured everywhere throughout Christian art on top of a sun cross, showing the sun's journey through the 4 seasons, and they correspond to 2 solstices and equinox, the 4 aspects of the Christian cross. We could conclude this section by saying that the Christian religion is literally a parody on the worship of the sun. And we are, believe it or not, still within the bounds of the ancient sun cult. Not long now before a break for sort of half time, guys. So the Christmas nativity is a celestial representation of Sirius, the star of the east. And the 3 kings of Orion, which align to the rising sun, or the risen Saviour at the winter solstice. We can also see that the Son of God dies on the cross, which represents the Southern Cross constellation. Bizarrely, the Cone Nebula, or the Christmas tree star cluster, is on display beside Orion in the December sky. It literally looks like a heavenly Christmas tree, even comes complete with flashing lights. This year, or rather the year just gone, to see in the age of Aquarius on the winter solstice, we will see the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. It is claimed that a similar arrangement of planetary spheres was the real Star of Bethlehem that guided the 3 wise men, and that conjunctions signify an imminent change and a coming together of opposites. Saturn is represented by a glyph known as the crescent below the cross. Jupiter's glyph is the crescent above the cross. In astrology, it is a malefic planet. Jupiter is the greater benefic and is said to grant good fortune. What could it mean for the future of life on Earth, I wonder? Will we see a significant event bringing about an end to our current New World Order, introduced on the back of the coronavirus pandemic?
If it wasn't for Jupiter, we'd all be dead now.
Quite possibly.
Definitely. It's like a comet and meteor sponge for everything coming this way. It's Jupiter first.
Yeah, that's if you believe space exists.
I'm going to stick with my belief in space.
Okay, so here we can see how the planetary spheres have influenced the three Abrahamic religions, i.e. Judaism, Christianity and Islam. The solar cult became Christianity, the lunar cult is Islam, and the stellar cult represents Judaism. Christian religion has adopted the cross, as we well know, and it resembles the letter X. In occult terms, however, this X symbol represents many things, such as the pagan symbol for sun worship. Hence we have the term Xmas. Perhaps, however, there's the X factor, perhaps, however, the shape of what's known as a DNA chromosome is the real X factor, the X shape. It's funny how this all kind of fits in. And speaking of X, some occultists claim the X symbol is associated with the mockery of Christianity because it's similar to the inverted cross. X is the symbol of transformation, hence X-Men. You can see there the Illuminati one-eye symbology there. It's also the symbol of death, and you get an X marks a spot in the cemetery where you get buried. X is a mark, an indicator, and it marks the spot of a pirate's treasure map, for example. And this is a bit where Dawn, if she was here, she would have liked this bit. Many pop stars utilise the occult power of the letter X. Who's he? Big Sean. Big Sean, is that right? Complex with his arms crossed. That's Lily Allen. And the green one, does anyone know that album?
Malcolm X.
There's Malcolm X, yeah, excellent. All over the place when you start looking. That's Ed Sheeran's album. He's done really well for himself, hasn't he?
Very well.
Very talented singer.
Rebellion. Apparently, at his concert, he sings at a certain way. It's like chant.
Is it?
What do you call that? I was talking last week about it. I'll tell you later, because it's quite complicated.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Okay, we've talked about pop stars, and that's just a few of them. I've obviously kept this short. We've obviously got
Brand up there.
That's Russell Brand. That was called Brand X. That show, Russell Brand, but Brand even.
The X he's holding there is astronomical shorthand for the symbol for the sun.
Yeah.
Crux.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Russell Brand, friend or foe. He was married to Katy Perry, wasn't he?
I think he was Katy Perry's handler.
You reckon? Yeah. But he's interesting. His stuff on YouTube.
There's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah. But you know, like I say, a friend or foe.
He went round London, wasn't he, showing up the bankers?
Did he?
And was it the HSBC bank or some bank? He came and he had this lorry with a great big, with the photographs on of all the bankers. And he went, he knocked on the door, and he said he wanted to see the
CEO.
The CEO, and they said he wasn't there. He said, well, he must be there. You know, he must be working very hard. Blah, blah, blah. And he really, you know, showed them up.
He's a very interesting bloke. So the music industry is full of the letter X, but let's have a look at this lady here, the High Priestess Madonna. And her album, this one here, Rebel Heart, believe it or not, there's a song on it actually called Illuminati.
Yeah.
I don't know how it goes, to be honest, but and then we all know her as Madam X as well. Many aspects of the Bible, and therefore Christianity itself, could be regarded as a literal astro-theological hybrid derived from a predominantly Egyptian mythos. Or is it perhaps a politically motivated Roman parody of sun worship in order to create an empire by means of manipulation and social control? A bit like modern day times. What we do know actually did follow the Council of Nicaea was a long history of religious bloodshed and spiritual fraud. The Vatican placed Europe into a stranglehold, inspiring events like the Dark Ages, the Inquisition and the Crusades. This was the Holy Roman Empire, and it was a history of bloodshed. And some of that bloodshed will be apparent in round 2 of this presentation. And if for the guys at the back, if you can't see what Santa's saying here, he's talking about the Greek letter known as chi, which resembles the letter X. It has the numeric equivalent of the number 600. 666 can be equated to XXX, as in X-rated. The Greek word for beast is therion. Take the Greek letters of the word therion and translate it into Hebrew, and the numerical value of the resultant Hebrew word is 666.
Charlize Theron, that's a bit similar.
Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron.
Check the album.
Aye.
Oh God, never noticed that. Well spotted, Charlize Theron.
Interesting as well that Emperor Nero is letters add up to 666.
Yeah.
And there's a rumour that Nero was the biblical beast because of all the Christian groups around at the time.
I think I've seen that before,
persecuted them.
Yeah.
And he played his fiddle while Rome was.
Maybe fiddle kids, you don't know.
Keith Graham should have been here today. Good.
Yeah.
You must meet Graham one time.
Oh, terrific,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got some exciting news later, haven't we, Elizabeth?
Oh, this would have been right up Graham Street today.
Wait.
He would,
Keep them in suspense, Elizabeth.
Well, you probably like round 2.
Is it boy or girl?
Keep it in suspense.
That's interesting about Charlize Theron. I'd never picked that up. Brilliant. Therion. Charlize Theron. Very interesting.
Your 3 6s are 18. 1 and 8 is 9. And 9 is the last complete number. So I don't know what goes into it.
Yeah,
There's
definitely. Sorry?
There's a hell of a lot of numerology that we don't see.
Oh yeah, and the number 9 is really very one of the most interesting occult numbers. Number 9, far beyond what I'm talking about today, but very interesting.
The police ring 999, which is 666.
Yeah, exactly.
with 14.
Do you want a break here?
It's up to you.
Yeah, shall we stop? Because
we'll have a break
I'm aware this is quite a long subject.
We'll do.
Before the heating.
It's really